All right. Welcome back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with a special fight preview. So we're going to Tokyo, Japan for Rizin number 20. We're going to the Super Atomweight Championship. So that's 108 pounds, roughly 49 kilos. And this is actually a trilogy fight. Ayaka Hamasaki, the current Rizin Super Atomweight champ, meeting the challenger Seo-Hee Ham. Now these two have fought twice before, Hamasaki winning both of those previous fights, but last time they met was back in 2011, so 8 years has passed in that time since then, and both fighters have come a long way in their careers. Now before we break down each fighter individually, let's see how they look at how they match up statistically. So Hamasaki's the older fighter, 37 years to Ham's 32 years of age. Ham is more experienced, 22-8 to Hamasaki's 19-2. When it comes to size, Ham is slightly taller, 5 feet 2 inches, 158 centimeters to Hamasaki's 5 feet 1 inch and 155 centimeters. Now for reach, I don't have a reach available for Hamasaki. Ham is listed as with a reach of 62 inches, 157 centimeters. Now, so that's how they look at each other statistically, side by side. Let's break each fighter down individually. So let's start with the challenger, Seo-Hee Ham. So Ham's strengths. Well, first off, she is hands down the best striker at atomweight or super atomweight. Hands down. I struggle to think of a better striker at atomweight and super atomweight right now. Ham is just the best at it. She has also really worked on her takedown defense. Last fight she was up against Miyu Yamamoto, who is a world champion wrestler or former world champion wrestler, I believe. She's definitely, international caliber wrestler. And Yamamoto could barely get Ham down, and when she did get Ham down, she was being punished for it. So Ham did really well with her takedowns there, and she's also showed that improved takedown defense in fights like when she won the Road FC title, beating a wrestler there. And then finally, Ham has a newfound finishing ability. Out of her last 5 fights, all at atomweight, super atomweight, she has finished 4 of her opponents. Lone decision coming against Jong-un Park in Road FC. But since then, she has finished 4 opponents, 2 in Road FC, 2 in Rizin. One of them being the current Invicta atomweight champ, Jin Yu Fry. 2 of them being Deep Jewel's atomweight champions. So Ham has really put together her finishing ability since moving back down to atomweight after leaving the UFC. Now, I think I've been racking my brain on, what apparent weakness does Ham have? And honestly, it's kind of a bit of an X factor here in that she's already lost to Hamasaki twice. So Hamasaki could possibly just have Ham's number. Granted, those fights were years ago, but they're still there, and they're still going to be in the back of Ham's mind. I've already lost to this lady twice. I can't lose a third time. So that could be the biggest weakness going into this fight. Usually I look at technicalities and technical things, but this is a pretty big X factor here. And then finally, Ham's keys to victory. If I were Ham, I think she needs to stay on the outside and strike from the outside. Don't let Hamasaki get close enough to work for her takedowns. Also, punish any takedown attempts. If Hamasaki goes for the legs, she needs to punish, she needs to sprawl and brawl, or punish them. Start landing ground and pound as soon as the takedown attempts go. First stop the takedown defense. First stop the takedowns, and then make Hamasaki pay every time she goes for a takedown. And then finally, Ham needs to be ready for anything. Hamasaki can end the fight all kinds of ways, so she needs to be, on her toes and just be prepared to go wherever the fight goes. All right, so that was the challenger, Seo-Hee Ham. Now let's look at the reigning defending Rizin super atomweight champ, Ayaka Hamasaki. So Hamasaki's strengths. Well, first off, she's very durable. She has been in trouble in fights before and has come back to win, sometimes even come back to finishing them. For example, the Amber Brown fight in Invicta, Hamasaki even admits that she was saved by the bell in the first round and then came back and submitted her. Another example would be Hamasaki's last fight, non-title fight against Suinam Boonsorn. Boonsorn had her in trouble very early in that fight, and Hamasaki was patient and found her opportunity, reversed, and got the win there. So Hamasaki is very durable. She is also extremely well-rounded. She can strike, she can wrestle, she can submission grapple. She does really well in transitions. Hamasaki is definitely the most well-rounded atomweight or super atomweight in the world. Whereas Ham's the best striker, bar none, Hamasaki is the most well-rounded. And then finally, Hamasaki has a deep bag of tricks. She finds reversals out of nowhere. She finds submissions out of nowhere. Just a deep bag of tricks. Now, for Hamasaki's one weakness, I struggled to really put this into words, but I'm going to write it off as a tendency to underestimate opponents, if that makes sense. And I'll try to explain it like this. Her last fight against Boonsorn came out and executed the exact same style of takedown and back take that allowed Boonsorn to get her win right before that in deep jewels. Or, for example, against fighters like, again, going back to the Amber Brown fight, she was in deep, deep trouble there. Now, I don't know if this comes down to lack of preparation for specific opponents. Maybe it's a apathy towards fighting. Maybe she's just overconfident, or if she really just does underestimate opponents. So we'll leave it as the tendency to underestimate opponents. Now, for Hamasaki's keys to victory. She's not going to want to fight on the outside against Ham. Ham's the superior outfighter. So she's going to want to strike in order to get inside. The clinch is where Hamasaki tends to usually go for takedowns from. She's not really a traditional wrestler in that she goes for double legs and single legs all the time. A lot of her takedowns are more clinch-based, like judo style, like throws and trips. So she's going to want to strike to get to the inside. And then she's going to want to execute either a throw or a trip takedown. She doesn't really want to try to shoot on Ham's legs because, like I said, Ham's takedown defense has gotten really good, particularly her sprawl and brawl. So she's going to want to go for a trip or throw takedown. And then finally, she's going to want to hunt for the submissions. That's where Hamasaki is at her best, is on the ground, hunting for submissions. That's traditionally where Ham is the weakest. So that's really her best avenue, is to strike to get inside, go for those clinch style trips or throws, and then hunt for a submission once she gets there. All right, so that was the champion Ayaka Hamasaki, and that's how both fighters measure up against each other. So now it's time to make my prediction. And this one it's super hard for me to rack my brain on this one. I thought long and hard about this. Hamasaki is the most well-rounded, and she finds ways to win. Outside of 115 pounds, with those 2 losses in Invicta, she's undefeated. Then you got Ham, who is at the peak of her career right now. Ever since dropping down to atomweight, she's been finishing opponents. She has looked so good since dropping down to atomweight, and she's also a lot stronger here. Both of these fighters, this is like the penultimate. When I used to think that Ham versus Jin Yu Fry was like number 1 and number 2 at atomweight, and at the time it was, because Hamasaki wasn't really fighting at the time. She had taken, I think, over a year off by then. So, but this fight is, this is true number 1 and number 2. Now, who is number 1 and number 2? You could debate all day up until the fight happens, but at the end, there's only going to be one number 1, and that's what makes this fight so exciting, because it's so rare that you get a true number 1 versus a true number 2. Especially outside the UFC, it just doesn't happen. And here it is happening here. This is just an amazing fight. As for my pick, I'm going with Hamderlei Silva, Seo-Hee Ham. I just think that she is on such a roll. She has been near unbeatable. And I just think now is her time. Whereas Hamasaki is getting up there in age. She's 37. She's technically past her physical prime. Definitely. And just the fact that, she tends to just underestimate her opponents or to get into trouble spots against them. And at this point, I don't think you want to risk that against Seo-Hee Ham. So I'm going with Seo-Hee Ham on this one. And now I'll admit, huge Ham fan. Have been since day 1, since I saw her first fight not long after it happened. That was, and when she beat Hisei Watanabe, huge underdog, made her pro debut against a fighter with, I don't know how many fights then, huge underdog, and Ham came away with the decision in Japan. So maybe that could be clouding my judgment a little bit, but I'm sticking with it. I'm going with Ham. And no matter what, even if I would have picked Hamasaki to win, I'd still be cheering for Ham. But this fight, like I was saying, this fight has so much. Not only is it number 1 versus number 2, it is like a striker versus grappler battle, although both of them were really well-rounded. But it is a striker versus grappler, so it has that classic fight narrative. Korea versus Japan, huge. That's a huge rivalry. Oh, it has been for hundreds of years now. What else? I had like a list I was thinking earlier. But, this fight just has everything you could possibly ask for. It's going down early in the morning in the U.S. on December 31st, New Year's Eve, early in the morning here, evening there. It's going to be on Fight TV if you're in the U.S. iPay-per-view, it's like $19.95. If you're going to purchase this and you've never watched Fight TV before, I will leave my promo code down below. You'll get credit, and I'll get credit towards pay-per-view. So please, if you've never signed up for Fight before, please use my promo code. And let me know what you think about this matchup in the comments down below. Of course, likes are always appreciated. And hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell for notifications. And we'll see you next time.